So, this is going to be called SharePoint, You're Doing It Wrong. As I've seen in this group and other groups, take up on SharePoint's been sort of pretty slow. Would anybody go with that? That's sort of the general consensus. And I think a lot of that is not necessarily understanding about specifically what SharePoint can do. Because if you sell somebody a mail server, it doesn't matter whether you sell it to a butcher or an accountant, it's still a mail server. It delivers mail in and out. SharePoint's different. If you sell a SharePoint solution to an accountant, it will look completely different to if you sell a SharePoint solution to a solicitor or a builder. And that's where it needs a different set of skills. And as part of this, the lack of understanding as I see it, when we had the MVP roadshow here a couple of months ago, one of the guys put his hand up and he said, oh, we don't use SharePoint because if you're trying to use it to replace your file system, it's too complicated. And I was stood at the back of the room and I was like, but it's a different conversation, so I didn't want to say anything. But I actually agree with that statement. If you're trying to use SharePoint as a file system, it is too complicated because that's not what it's meant for. It's meant to complement your file system. So if you think about, just as a really, really simple example, if you install SBS 2011, which comes with SharePoint 2010, you have a 10 gig limit. It's limited by the database that it comes with. So I'm sure your customers are all the same. They've got more than 10 gig by the time they put all their drawings on, their pictures. And 10 gig you can rack up quite quickly. So
is it 5,000 items as well?
No. I've got more than 5,000 items in my SharePoint. It's because it's limited to the version of SQL Server it comes with. It's SQL Express 2008, I think. And it has a 10 gig limit. They changed that in this version of SharePoint. It was as big as you liked in this version. But that's part of it. If you're trying to use SharePoint as a replacement for your file system, in my opinion, I think you're doing it wrong. You need to be looking at why you would want to put documents into the SharePoint. But if you did want to replace SharePoint as a file system, you can map a network drive to a document library. Because yes, browsing to it in Internet Explorer and then clicking on the attach icon and uploading it is difficult. If you're used to clicking File, Save As or copy and paste, but you can still replicate that if you need to. Next thing, turn it on the other side of things. Instead of looking at it from the customer's perspective, looking at it from your perspective. So why should you look at SharePoint as an MSP or a support company? I think the first thing is it makes you unique, as we've just all agreed on. Not many people are doing it. So if you can do it and you can offer it to customers, when you're competing against other IT companies, it's a unique thing you can offer. You can help people improve their businesses. Leading on to that, it makes you sticky. If you go and you put a SharePoint solution in, it looks like you've written a custom solution. It's not, it's out of the box SharePoint. But it makes it harder for them to replace you. If somebody else comes in and they look at it, so I don't know how that works. Which in turn, you get more entrenched with the customer. Part of installing a SharePoint solution means you have to learn about their business processes. You have to learn about what makes the business tick from that side of things as opposed to a technical thing, which gets you towards the trusted advisor. If you're learning more and more about their business, you'll also then open up more opportunities. You know, by figuring out how things work, you might end up saying, well, as well as SharePoint, why don't we do this product as well? So tactics, if you're going to look at doing a SharePoint thing, and as I said, there's a lot of skills that you potentially do need, and there is a steep learning curve, but my suggestion is start small, really small. There is no point going in all guns blazing. So do the simple things that they're already doing already. Shared calendars, shared tasks, shared contacts. They're really, really easy to do, and you can actually do it without people realising. When we do server migrations now, if they've had Exchange public folders before, we quietly move them into SharePoint shared calendars, SharePoint shared contacts. They don't even notice, but they then get lots of nice added benefits in the fact that those contacts they've got, they can then use in other parts of the system later on. While you're keeping it simple, find what I call siloed data, bits of information that really needs to be in the system somewhere. So a really easy one, walk in the office, look for post-it notes, stuck to monitors with people's phone numbers on or account numbers and that sort of thing. Bits of paper stuck to cubicles, I'm sure you've all seen that. Pick them up. You can build a system from that. It means because if that information is useful to one person, it's going to be useful to somebody else. And by then centralising it and making it available to everybody, you get all the added benefits. How difficult is it to update a post-it note for 30 people? Going on from that, you can then get information out to other parts of the company. Really, really simple one. Right on the front page here, we've got on there announcements. Dead easy. Give it somebody to make it their job to do it. And anytime there's some information, some news that needs shared with the company, whether it's we've won a big contract or we're all leaving Friday to go to the pub or actually we go for lunch, make an announcement. The announcements list is self-managing. If you put in an expiry date, you put an entry in, put an expiry date in. Once that date comes and goes, it drops off the list. Self-managing. It only takes 2 seconds to update. But it gets into that nature of checking the SharePoint, getting people to log into it. Also, something else you can do is pick one project just to get started, even if it's a spreadsheet. The one that I see all the time is a spreadsheet that's been used as a database. They have a list of customers or a list of projects, and they're on a spreadsheet, and you've got 3 or 4 people trying to update it, and it's not a database. But because it's a spreadsheet to start with, it's really, really well suited for converting it to SharePoint. There's tools that'll do it for you. By doing it in small chunks as well, what that means is you don't overwhelm staff. You've probably done this yourself. You go into a site, you do a great big massive project, new system, and they don't like change. Oh no, the old system was much better. If you can do it in little small chunks so that they can see incremental changes to how it improves their job, you'll get buy-in from them. Buy-in, I hate that word. But it then means when you do want to introduce something big, the next thing, they've been using it all the time. Makes it very simple. Then once you've done that, you can look at larger projects. But as I said, SharePoint isn't the be-all and end-all. It won't replace everything. So when you're looking at a project, decide whether it is the best fit. So if you're looking at project management software, yeah, you probably could do it in SharePoint with enough fiddling. But the time you'd spend and the money that you would spend doing the consulting work on it, you could have bought projects anyway. Tools for the job. And again, that's not reinventing the wheel. If they ask you for a CRM system, give them a CRM system. Yeah, you could probably do it in SharePoint, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And it does have limitations, so make sure you're aware of those. And again, cost. By doing the smaller projects, it makes it affordable and manageable. If you go to a customer and say, yeah, we can convert your whole company to SharePoint and we'll spend £10,000 in a month doing it, they're not going to buy into that, they're not going to do it. If you do it in little bits, as they start to see the value, they'll be more willing to spend money on it.